into your high school, or a boy transfers into your high school, and they're the new person, if they're already fine, because they're new, their fine factor spikes like the first month, right? So they're just a new person in school, you know? And that was his case. Everybody had tried to go out with this girl. Different guys had gone and taken their shots, and she was just kind of shooting guys down. It was almost the same way. I was thinking, like, there's got to be a way for me to get to ask this girl out. And so I came up with this plan. And you see, at this point in time, I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have one of her friends that I'm close to do me a favor. If I can just get her to get this new girl to come to the Friday night basketball game, it's all going to fall into play. Because you see, this Friday night's basketball game, it was going to be special. You see, I was a sophomore, the only sophomore, who was starting on the varsity basketball team, and certainly she had written in her diary that's who she wanted to marry, right? Somebody who could do that. And so I was thinking to myself, this is going to be great, because Friday night, our games at home, they were a lot of fun. Everybody kind of came. It was a big deal in our town. And not only that, I thought to myself, this is going to be perfect, because we're playing Deer Park High School, and they're like 0 in life. Okay, they haven't won a game since like 1960. And I'm thinking to myself, this is great. I'm going to score like 25 points. She's going to rush down out of the stands and say, you're the man I've always wanted to marry. Let me bury your children. And it's going to be awesome. We're going to live happily ever after. And it's going to be perfect, right? Well, Friday night comes. And everything's going according to plan. My friend came through, and there she was. And I could kind of see it as I came out of the tunnel from the locker room, because anybody who plays basketball would tell you this. The greatest part of the basketball game is really the warm-ups, you know? Because in our high school, the jazz band would be playing, the stands were packed, they kind of went up behind our bench, and everybody was there. It was a big, big event. But the coolest part was when the music coming, you kind of come out to the spotlight, into the court, and everybody would give a big cheer. And let's face it, you'd be looking good, you know, for this warm-up part. I can't explain to you how good we look, so I just thought I'd show you. This is true. These were my warm-up pants. Dead sexy. I know. Yeah. We had these jerseys that kind of went along with it. And, you know, we looked good, so we went through our whole warm-up. And then the second coolest part happened. After the warm-ups, I kind of gave her the look, you know, and we kind of curled around. And what happens is they ring the bell, and all of the starters, we would sit down on a bench, and then everybody else would kind of curl around, and the coach would be telling you things, but you're not really paying attention because this is your time to look good, you know? And so I kind of peel off the top. At our high school, the student section went 2 stories up behind our bench. That was kind of it, all the way up, and then some of the parents and family would sit at the very top of that row. And so what we did is we started to kind of get undressed, you know, kind of peeled off the sweat top, and I kind of gave her that night one look. You know, right? And then I started to kind of take off the bottoms. And one of the things you'll notice is back in the early 80s, we had not thought of the kind of pants where they kind of unbutton, unsnap all the way down. I don't know why we never thought of that, but apparently they never did. So what would happen, this was a common occurrence, you kind of get your pants down. We'd have kind of bigger gym shoes back then, and it would get kind of hooked on your shoe. And all the guys would do this. You kind of get it down, you get it hooked on your shoe, and then you kind of stand up and you'd step on it. That's why these kind of have tears in them. You kind of step on them and just kind of wiggle your way out of them. And that night, I was kind of wiggling my way out of my pants, and all of a sudden, I noticed that kind of behind me, starting low, and then kind of working its way up the stands, there was kind of this little roar of laughter that kind of started to kind of go up the stands. And I didn't think much of it until the guys who were in the circle around us, they kind of started to back up, and I saw some of them start to laugh. And I thought to myself, that's really, really weird. And I got my pants stuck on my shoe, and I looked down to notice, you'll notice that back then what they did is they put strings in your sweats that held up your sweatpants. They also put strings in your shorts. And I had tied the strings in my sweats to the strings in my shorts. And so when I pulled down the sweatpants, I pulled down my shorts, and they were now stuck on my shoe. So now I'm like this, my pants are stuck on my shoe. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Steve, big deal. I mean, so somebody kind of saw you in your Under Armour, you know? Folks, this is the early 80s. In the early 80s, someone evil like blah, blah, blah invented these things called jock straps. For those of you who are still a little lost, just think like man thong. And you keep this picture. And so there I was. I live out another, I'm shooting the moon straight. Right up to everybody up the stands. And I mean, it's not saying, but now they're stuck on my shoe. So I'm pulling my shirt down, trying to get my pants up. Everybody's backing away. And literally, you just heard it rumble all the way up to the top. I mean, this is friends, family. Literally, At the time, my 82-year-old grandmother caught it. She was like, I've seen that before. It's really, she was almost proud of it, but it was this horrible moment. And I remember this night. I remember the night vividly because I finally got my pants back up, and the coach finished, and they rang the buzzer. And as we all had to go out for the jump ball, I remember hearing it spread along to all the people who missed it. Like in the stands, you can hear people start laughing, people were pointing. And I remember thinking, I looked across the way and I thought, I just want to run for that locker room. Do I run for that locker room or do I step out on this court? And I remember standing there for a second as all the other guys went out, just thinking, this is awful. But I have no choice but to step out on the court. And this is the question I've got for you. You see, if you really do put out the green balloons, it'll cost you. And you know that. And there's that moment where it's like, I can keep hiding, I can run my way. But if I really do lean into this pursuit of God, if there really is this everyday love that would change my everyday life, it will cost me. Let's be honest. Neighbors will take notice. Friends would wonder, do I step out on the court or not? Is it really worth the risk? Well, tonight, I want to flip the coin for you. I want to ask you one of the most life-changing questions for me. Is running in the locker room really working? I mean, let's be honest. Does it really work? Because you have to know this. Let's be honest with ourselves. All of us have faith. Everybody in this room has faith. If you're an atheist, you're like, I don't have faith. I don't believe there is a God. Yeah, you do. You're putting your faith in the fact it's okay to believe there's not a God. Because if there is one, you're screwed. Let's be honest. So I'm agnostic. That means I don't really know if there's a God or not. That's okay. You still have faith. You're putting your faith in the fact that it's okay not to know if there is a God or not. If that's not okay, you're screwed. Well, what is it that you will put your faith in? That's all I'm saying. You can believe what you want to believe, but don't kid yourself. You believe something. Some of you are like, you know what? I'm just kind of my yellow ballooner. But you're putting your faith in the fact that that's okay. So the question you have to ask yourself is this. Not will you have faith, but what is it that you would have faith in? What is it that you really will believe? What is it that you really trust? You trust something. Well, what is it for you? And does it really make life work? Or does it fall short? Well, let's be honest with ourselves tonight. Where does a life, apart from trusting and unlocking this new reality, what does it really look like? Let me tell you about some of the people in this room. Do you know that right now, in this room, in this place, where you sit, the people around you, this is a staggering thought. Do you know that 323 people in this room have already figured out that life does not have enough adventure or fun or real depth that they turn to alcohol to fix it? They just go, that'll just make it better because it's not good enough the way it is. And out of that, there are 133 people in here that do it every weekend at least. 133 people. They go, life doesn't work without it. Do you know that right here in this room, there's 161 of you that turn to everything from marijuana to cocaine? Because life doesn't work. We need to make it work. Now, I'm not judging you for it. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying let's just be honest that we have a need to do that. As a matter of fact, 99 people in here are addicted already to different substances. But let's just be honest. Is that what we would want to put our trust in? That's just where we are. I mean, where does life outside the intended reality of the tank get us? Think through this. Do you know that right here in this room, there are 182 of you? 182 people in this room are experiencing a life where the two people that brought them into this world at one point in time in one way said, I do. And they don't now. And then there's the audacity to tell you, it's okay. When deep down inside of you, you go, no, that wasn't okay. There's something about that just wasn't okay. But that's just where we landed. Let's just be honest. Do you know, for the guys in this room, life has such an emptiness that they have to turn to fantasy to make it work. Because the life that they have is not so deeply satisfying, they need to satisfy themselves with fantasy. And then even in that, there are 67 of them in here that are so addicted to pornography. They'll keep doing it even when they're married and even when they have little girls in their house. And the truth is, they don't know how they'd stop. You see, this is where it's landed us. Let's just be honest. Do you know that in this room, there are 289 people? 289 people in this room that want to feel love and connection and satisfaction and intimacy so deep that we turn to sexual relationships to get that, only to find out that it doesn't last. I mean, when the physical part's over, it doesn't bring intimacy, or real love, or real depth, or real connection, or real security at all. If anything, it brings insecurity. And our world is so screwed up. There are 51 girls in this room who have been abused. It's been forced on them. There are 34 guys in this room that have also undergone some kind of abuse in their life. But you want to know the saddest one? This one absolutely breaks my heart. Do you know that in this room there are 121 people who life seems so screwed up to them, so empty, that at some point in time they thought